Okay, hello everybody and welcome to the next video in my Who Is series. And as always, you're joining me today to learn more about the theme behind the Spirit of the Dead. And in so doing, we learn more about each spirit in turn, we improve our playstyles and enjoyment of the game, and ultimately, we help ourselves become better spirits. Well, I hope you're all well, and I hope you've had a brilliant week and weekend. I feel so much better. I guess Vengeance as a Burning Plague definitely took hold of me last week, but burnt himself out, as he does, and so I feel much better now. So, ready to talk about the next spirit, and that is, of course, none other than Sunbright Whirlwind. So I hope the clues that I left for you all last week when you were looking through them, maybe it made sense to you. But let's talk about them a little bit now. So we said that he's playful, he's got surprising damage, he's something to do with control, and something to do with defensive-based minded spirits or people who choose spirits like that will like him even though he's not defensive. So let's make a bit of sense of that. So, who is Sunbright Whirlwind? So, he is a control-based spirit. What do I mean by that? So, in this game, control, I tend to mean, when I use control, it's to talk about pieces on the board that you can maneuver and manipulate, either in the fast or the slow phase, to your advantage, such that you can either set up plays in a future turn, or you can mitigate damage or slow down the invaders' encroachment by preventing their builds in a particular area because you shift pieces off of that land. That's what I tend to mean by control. There are also other elements of control where you can control when and if damage happens. You can also maybe control your pieces on the board, your presence on the board, or perhaps that of your colleague spirits in multiplayer. But in the main cases, traditionally, what I refer to as control is that the movement of the invaders and or sometimes the Dahan, but primarily the invaders, on the board in a way that you want the puzzle to look like rather than what you're given. That's what I mean. And he's excellent at that. Now, his negative of control is he's not very good with cities. He's much better with explorers, like really good with explorers. He's pretty damn good with towns, but he's a bit naff when it comes to cities in terms of control. He is the playful, joyful spirit. So that's the lore aspect of it. He looks a bit playful. He's a bit like, he's not like, I'm going to do a huge amount of damage. He's not the defensive spirit and so on. He is a little bit of the, hey, let's just have some fun. Which might make you to ask the question, how are you ever going to win with this guy? And that's a good question, and we'll get onto that later. He is actually, though, in league with that question, he's got some surprising damage to him. Now, in order to unlock this damage, you have to be able to unlock a certain amount of card plays, such that you can unlock his deeper levels of his one innate power, and his innate thresholds are all cumulative. So what you want to do is get to the very bottom, and that's where he has his, kind of ultimate kind of power, in addition to some of his card play. And then this whole weird thing I said about defensive, but not defensive-minded spirits traditionally in this game are ones that defend a land. Okay, you put a shield around and it stops damage from coming in. Or you could remove blight from a land, or some combination of the two. Something like that. There are other ways to be, however, defensive, and some of those would be moving and shifting pieces from lands that would have a problem to them, such that you're no longer faced with that issue. So you're moving the issue to a different land. Now, that may mean that in the future turn, that land might be a bigger issue. But for right now, you've solved and defended the land that had the problem. So defensive-based spirits, because they're used to defending a land and moving Dahan into that land to do counterattack damage, might be okay, a little bit more at home with this spirit, once you understand that the defensive tool isn't there, but everything else is. And you just play it slightly differently. You don't move the Dahan, but you move the invaders away. So that's what we meant by all of that, or what I meant by all of that. Now let's talk about him in a little bit more depth, starting with his sound effect. Now come on, how does that not make you think? Playful, joyful, wind, and he's got this really funky sort of, I think, slightly oriental-like design to him. Very wise, very orientally kind of designed motif. And I think that comes through with the sound effect. At least that's my feeling. I also have noticed that I think all of the sound effects in this game it will have that slight pitch change the more you press on them. As you can hear, it's not just Vengeance as a Burning Plague. So there's that. Okay, let's go to the spirit panel. Let's spin it around. Let's talk about his lore. Sunbright Whirlwind is a spirit of sun-warmed and gusting air. It spins leaves and dust into miniature cyclones, playfully snatches at small unsecured objects, and sometimes, when joyful or upset or full of the vigor of nature, howls across the island, bending trees and abrading the landscape with pebbles, twigs, shells, and the occasional bird nest. Some Dahan take its appearance as a good sign for travel, and others have tried asking it to help bring messages to those far away, with mixed success, as it tends to lightly prank the recipients by mixing the message's words all about. It's very cute. The second paragraph basically is just a bit of lore. Honestly, just a bit of fluff and lore. A little bit of discussion with Dahan, and I think the main reason that what I take from this is, look, he can use Dahan and doesn't mind Dahan. Okay, so that is a little bit of good stuff. The fact that its appearance as a good sign for travel, that indicates potentially a bit of Dahan movement, which he does have. But the majority of things are in the first paragraph. So he's a spirit of sun-warmed and gusting air. So if you think about sun-warmed, you're looking about areas that the sun, when it hits, will stay hot. And where there's gusts, there's areas where, for example, you don't have a lot of shrubbery and you don't have a lot of stuff in the way that will break down those gusts a bit. So you're talking maybe about the mountainous regions and the sand regions, which is actually where he starts. So he starts in the highest numbered sands and 2 in the lowest numbered mountain. So that, I think, talks about this. It spins leaves and dust into miniature cyclones. Miniature cyclones. So that's mini cyclones, mini damage, mini movement, mini some type of kind of movement stuff, and maybe mini damage. That's what you're trying to get from this. Playfully snatching at small unsecured objects. Again, movement, little bit of movement. But then it does say, when joyful, upset, or full of the vigor of nature, can howl across the island. So at some stage, and this is embedded in with his innate power, once you get to that lower level and you're triggering those lower thresholds, along with his power cards and potentially some drafts of new cards, that's when he can do more damage. Okay, so playful, mostly about movement, little bit of tiny damage, but can grow into a big amount of damage, surprising amount of damage, and can move a little bit of the Dahan. So we've already spoken about where he starts, and now let's talk about complexity. Totally agree, I think he's a low complexity spirit, but the only caveat is the control aspect. He is a control spirit. I won't say much about the summary of powers because actually I think that's pretty much spot on. But he is a primarily control-based spirit, which means for a lot of people in this game, damage is damage. That's pretty simple to understand. Defense is defense against damage. Again, pretty simple to understand. But the control aspect is, what do you control? When do you use that control? What's the right time? And where should you push things to and move things from? So, although it's quite focused, and he's quite a focused spirit, there is a layer of complexity to him based on this control, and therefore the amount of damage he can do to actually try to win the game Because as you see, he doesn't do much fear. So where is his win condition? So actually, although I agree with low complexity, there is a moderate amount baked in with win condition and the skilled use of control to get the best outcomes. But yes, Summary of Powers, mild offense, can scale, can go higher, control quite high, fear very low, can win in Terror level 2, but doesn't tend to do more than that. If you draft different cards, okay. And there's actually 1 or 2 cards which you can draft that he really likes because they're on element and they are really quite potent cards for fear. So defense, negligible unless you consider the defense I mentioned, like movement of pieces away so they don't do any damage. But traditional defense and blight removal, absolutely nothing. And utility, actually, he has a reasonable amount of utility. Not only can he really spread out onto different island boards quite easily and be present there, not only can he manipulate movement of pieces, but he also can give other spirits abilities. And he does that in 2 different ways. He's got 2 unique cards which can do that. So his utility is actually relatively high. So let's go to his spirit panel. There's that great sound effect again. And let's talk about the theme behind the growth options. So first of all, let's start with growth option 3. So here you can actually add one of your presents from the presence track up to 4 range away. This is massive and it kind of makes sense. He's a wind and air spirit. And, it kind of makes sense. You kind of go along the gusts of the air currents and so on, and you could go and fly really far away, right? That makes sense. You get a power card when he does that, because, yeah, why not? But then if we go from there to growth option 2, if he chooses not to go that distance and his air is not used to push his presence to different areas, he can utilize that energy in a different way as he wants it. So he gains instead 4 energy. So there's this 4 presence range addition or 4 energy. And then he can add presence just 1 range away, because he's basically saying I'll do it 1 distance, but I'll save the extra and give me the energy for that, which I think is so thematic. You either take the air and you ride it and you go all the way that way, therefore you're putting all your energy into the air and it's pushing you really far, and you get a power card when you do that because you're a bit vamped up, or you add presence just next door to where you are, but that energy that you would have put into the winds and the gusts and the movement, you take for yourself. Brilliant. The first growth option is similar to so many of the other spirits. This is his regrouping. He reclaims his power, he gets a new power, he gets a little bit of energy, and he's ready to go. Okay? His presence tracks. Really, really cool. So, he finishes at 6 energy, and he finishes at 5 card plays. He also has, can't see it here again because I can't move this, but sun, air, and sun. So 2 different elements, 2 of each, and he needs both. He is a sun-air spirit. More air than sun, but he requires them. And actually the growth of the energy goes quickly from 1 to 2, 2 to sun, which you do want, sun to 3, and there's your midway point, and that's already pretty awesome. Then 3 to 4 with air. That's really unique. 4 and air, not one or the other, but both. And then 6. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And as for card plays, well, he's got, starts with 1, then he goes to 2, then he goes to 3, then he goes to, this is air here, then he goes to 4, and then he goes to 5 and sun. That's amazing. That's actually amazing. So his presence tracks are some of the best in the game, but he grows on 2 of his growth options and not on 1 of them. So he's a slow growing, but can reach far. Really cool. His special rule, a stiff wind at their backs. So this is awesome. When you add your presence from your presence track, so when you use one of these growth options here, you immediately can trigger this special rule in the land you add it into. And the moment you add that presence into that land, doesn't matter how much presence you've got there, if it's a virgin land or if you've got lots of presence there, you push up to one explorer or Dahan from that land. This is an amazing amount of control. Even before any cards are played, any powers are triggered, you are moving a piece on the board. You are stopping a potential build. You are stopping a potential ravage if you need to. You're decreasing damage in a land. This is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and you need to use this well. And finally, here's innate power: violent windstorms, slow, range of 1, any land. They are thresholded and they are cumulative. Each one does a really cool control. First 2 do controls, second 2 do damage. So the first layer is just use it to push one of your explorers. So let's say a land is explored into with an explorer. Hey, you get to push that away. Problem solved, doesn't build, no worries. The next level is, we've got towns and lands, but don't worry, I can move them. So he gets to push up to 2 explorers or 2 towns or a combination of them, and he generates 1 fear. Then, this is the weird stuff. For each invader pushed by this power, 1 damage in the land it was pushed to. So that means you push 1 invader, 1 damage. You push 2 damage, 3 damage. And you do that into the land you're pushing. So you push these guys from a land, and you push them into a land, and in that land you do damage. And you do as much as you've pushed. Then the final threshold is in the land that you are actually targeting, you do 4 damage. So the way I like to see this, if you imagine a fully realized innate power, you target this land, you whisk up a windstorm, okay, a violent windstorm. You get a cyclone going, and you move initially, it flings out 1 explorer, and let's say you push it into the next land adjacent. So it goes woo, and it flings out 1 explorer, okay? And then you take the next threshold, you are still spinning, and you are doing so much more spinning that you generate a fear, and now you get to push an explorer or a town or 2 of each or 1 of either or whatever, okay? And you push them into this land. So you're scouring this land a little bit and you're moving it out. And then you do in the land that these guys have moved into, they've been propelled with such speed into this land that they're like, Rah! Whether it's towns and settlements like that, or whether it's a solo explorer with like a few camps and maybe like an expedition, they're flinging into this land, and they're either hitting the land itself, like in a jungle, let's say some trees, or in a mountain area, like the mountainous outgrowth or whatever. They're either smashing into that and damaging themselves, or they're smashing into explorers, towns, or cities within this land and damaging it in the process. And somehow not taking damage themselves. Yeah, whatever. Maybe that's all the energy is transferred into the thing it hits. I don't know. Yeah, figure that one out yourself. But so you can either, for example, in this land, if there is a city, you move 3 things into this, and that city just gets blitzed. Done. Now, those 3 things will not also take damage, which is a little bit of a break of a theme, but perhaps it's just too much damage they felt. But still, that's pretty awesome, okay? And then finally, because you've been whipping up this windstorm in this land A here, yeah? You've been whipping this up and spinning things out, damage was done here. Because there's so much of a windstorm going on here, you do 4 damage in that land. Yeah, it's pretty cool, I have to say. Now, onto his cards. Very cool cards. You've got 2 to start with, unique powers, which are very, very strong in utility. Then you've got an excellent control card, and then you've got your damage card. So let's start by talking about the utility cards. He is, remember, a sun air spirit. You'll see 3 of his cards are sun and air. 1 of them is just air. Interestingly, that 1 is the actual control-based card. So maybe too much control and they felt they can't put the sun there. Okay, whatever. So first of all, sunlit air. Okay, gift of sunlit air. Here we can see Sunbright Whirlwind wrapping himself around fathomless mud of the swamp, and making it so that his powers now are one more than they were before, and gives him 1 energy. Now, if you target yourself, you don't get the extra energy, but you get an extra range of +1 with all of your powers. Awesome ability, 0 cost. Next one is 1 cost, fast. There he is again, wrapping himself around. You can see here, there he is wrapping himself around, this time rising heat of stone and sand. And the invaders are a bit nervous because what's going on? This can read, it basically turns a slow power to fast, but with a big caveat. Also, if you target another spirit, it gets 1 energy as well. If you target yourself, you don't get the energy. It's 1 cost on element. However, the caveat is if the card has push or gather in it. Now, it can be an innate power. It doesn't have to be a card. It can be any power that has push or gather in it. Now, the rest of the card, or the rest of the power, innate power, whatever, doesn't have to have the push or gather thing, as long as somewhere in that action, and remember an action is a whole power, whether that's a whole innate power or a whole card, at least somewhere in there is a push or gather. That even includes cards which have the or option. So push, gather this many, or do 2 damage, let's say, or whatever. You can actually make that card, if it's slow, fast, even if you choose not to take the push gather, because the card has push gather on it. So it immediately turns that card into fast, and then you can choose the damage option. Very cool, very flexible card, but also a card that you're probably going to want to tend to be a little bit selfish about. You kind of want to use this on yourself, especially towards the latter stage, mid to latter stage of the game. Early on, you might give it off to some of your colleague spirits in a multiplayer. The next one is Scatter It to the Winds. Brilliant. Look, there he is again, just basically having fun and just moving things all over the place. Very unique card. You basically choose an island, choose a land, and you push up to 5 explorers, towns, or Dahan, or any combination of them, to as many different adjacent lands as possible. Which means you can't just pile everything into one land. If you've got land A and 3 lands around it, for 1, 2, 3, and you've got land A, you have to push 1 in there, let's say. That land cannot be pushed into again until this one and this one have at least 1 in them each. And then you can go back to this one, but then again you have to fill these ones out. So, but remember, this actually works with isolated lands. So if a land is isolated, it can't have things pushed into it because it's not technically adjacent. You can make it not adjacent, and so you can actually manipulate it in such a way that you move everything into one land, for example. Very cool card, and at range 2, really cool. And then finally, this is a very weird card, okay? Tempest of Leaves and Branches. This is where all his damage lies. He has no other damage except this and his innate. From a sacred site, and you probably will be making some sacred sites in this game. From a sacred site, you choose up to 5 different invaders in the target land, range 1 away, and you do 1 damage to each of them. So what does this mean? This means this can blitz a land of explorers. It can take all 5 explorers away. This can take 3 explorers and do 1 damage each to 2 towns, for example, right? But if the 2 towns take 1 damage each somehow in another way, well, then those towns will die. So the idea is you sort of combo these cards and this innate all together, and you can do that at 5 card plays or 4 card plays because you'll have the 1 extra air on the card play track. So if you play all of these cards and up to 4, if you have opened up this 4th card play, by then you have the extra air. Then you play all of these cards, you'll have 5 air and 3 sun. You will be triggering this, and you can cast these cards, which means you can make one of your powers fast, and you'll notice your innate has push in it. So this can go fast. You can do chip damage into a land or whatever, move things into that land, do enough damage in that land, and then boom, you blitz that land and you get rid of everything from that land potentially. It's a really nice little combo. And again, he's combo-tastic. He's a combo-tastic spirit. So if you like that idea, you'll love this guy. Takes a bit of setup and takes a bit of prep work to do it, but really cool. Okay, I think we've spoken enough about Sunbright Whirlwind and who he is and his lore and everything. perhaps now we should play a demo game. So let's give it a go and see how far we can get. And let's take you through the process. Okay. So we'll go on to, as always, a new board. Land C. I tend to get land C quite a bit. I wonder if that's just because it's a random and it goes in the middle. I don't know. But there we go. Sunbright World. Remember, we're starting in the mountains and sands. So let's see what we get. So we're starting 2 in this mountain and 1 in this sands. Okay, and they're exploring into the sands. Interesting. Okie dokie. So immediately I have the option to make another sacred site, move this guy away, and create a situation for myself where I don't have to worry about this land building. Now this is a bit of a problem, and we may be taking blight on this area, and that's okay. This is one of those spirits that oftentimes you may do what's called underplaying. Underplaying is the concept where even if you have the ability to play 2 or 3 or more or whatever cards, you actually play under the total amount. And the reason you might want to do that is you set things up such that at a later stage you can play the cards that you held back from playing, then you can play now when it's more important. And sometimes you have to do that with spirits, and this is one of those spirits. So I like to go with growth option 3. In a multiplayer board, I may choose to skip this and go to someone else's board and help them out if they're in a bit of a trouble, and they can help me out, etc. But for right now, because it's just me, I tend to go this, and it means I can go absolutely anywhere I want on my particular board, but I want the new power card. Remember, we're a Sun Air spirit. Let's zoom in a little bit more. So let's see what we pick up. So let's put this back up there. Sun Air. There we go. Sun Air. Fantastic. So this is a cool spirit which says you can play an extra power card. I quite like this because then it means that early on I can play 1 extra power. So this is certainly on my radar. Okay. This, however, is another ability that enables me to move pieces on the board. I think this is excellent. This can really help me out in a pinch in so many different ways. So I'm going to take this one here. Okay. It actually also can help me here. I can cast this on this land and move this into a different land without actually putting my presence there. So which means I can go presence into a different land. Would that be helpful? Maybe. Maybe that would be helpful. I'm also wanting to protect against cultural assimilation. So what I might do in a strange way is put my presence here, push this Dahan out, still be able to use this, move maybe into there or there. What I tend to like doing with Sunbright Whirlwind is having 2 lands next to each other where I've put things into. One having maybe, a bit more of the buildings, maybe. One having a few more of the explorers. And then I can use my combo-tastic moment, combo moment, to actually blitz both lands in a very efficient way. What's the best way to do that right now? Possibly playing scatter into here, moving this guy into there. In that case, what I might do is reserve this one for a different play. That's what I'll do. So I'll add my presence from the bottom track into here. I will now move this into there. And I will play this card. And that's my turn. I could actually do a second card play. And I could therefore move this Dahan into there. But I could reserve it also for the following turn, where I can do 3 cards and maybe do a bit more. Huh. Yeah, let's leave it like that, because if Mountains explores, that could be quite helpful. Okay. So let's see if Mountain will explore. Mountain? Hey, that's actually really good for us. And you'll see why in a second. Well, actually, I'll have 3 presents here, but whatever. Right, okay, so now we're going to do scatter into here. And this will force us to use each one of these lands just once. But because we've only got 2 in here, we can just use 2. So what I'm planning to do is I'm moving this, and I want to move it away. Well, do I? You either make a pocket or you don't, okay? Now I can either put this guy far, far into this corner, so only these two lands are actually being explored into from here, and then we might be able to make a pocket here. But I don't think I'm going to really get rid of the city anytime soon. So I'm actually going to prefer to move this into here, so I can do a bit more damage. So I'll move this into here, and then this little fella, I'm going to move into here, and maybe the beast will kill it off for me at a future stage. There we go. Okay. So now, what I can do is I can play this card and move this into here. Now this is going to ravage, but I don't really care, honestly. Sure, it'll add blight, but I have no blight restriction problems, so yeah, I'm just going to try to get up to 4 card plays, basically as soon as I can. I'm also going to try to get more power cards. I don't think I need the energy drastically right now, so let's go with this. Sun. This is 3 different elements. That could be good. Sun. And manipulation and movement of things with 0 cost. That could be quite helpful. Sun Air. 1 strife, push 1 Dahan, and each remaining Dahan takes 1 damage. Not the card I'd normally go for, but it's 0 cost and it's Sun Air. Yes, thank you, because I value my Innate quite a lot. And now I'm going to add presence from the bottom track, and let's see where I put it. Now what I could do is then I could add it there and move this into here. The beast won't be doing anything. Do I play with or around beast damage, or do I not bother? Let's not bother for now. Let's push this in. See, I added it and I can move it straight away. And now I will add a strife into this land, I think. I think that's a good idea. And we'll play this one as well. So we will trigger the top level here. Now I could play this as well and trigger the second level, so I can move 2 things. But I don't think I need to, nor do I really want to right now. So I'll just play that, and I'm underplaying again. Okay. Now I'm going to use this in here, so it won't build, and I'm going to push this into here. This is ravaging. We've accepted this. Replace 1. Oh, that's annoying. Well. On each inland land, replace 1 explorer with a town. Well, there you go. Lands do not ravage in lands with this or this. Okay. Each player may push 1 from a land with Dahan. May push. Now, do I want to do that? Maybe. Maybe. Because I'm thinking of maybe pushing things into this land. Yeah, sure. Sure. I'm going to push this town, I think, into this land. Yeah. And then they're going to go into wetlands. Great. And they're not going to go there because we moved this town away, so they're not exploring there. So now we're going to add... oh, hold on. I don't want the remaining Dahan takes 1 damage. Oh, actually, that maybe doesn't matter so much. But I suppose what I could do is I could keep the Dahan there. Okay, let's add this here. Let's move this to this land. This one takes 1 damage, and that's it. And then we can push up to 1. So if we push up to 1, let's push up to 1 of these. And the reason I'm doing this is because this is going to ravage. I may pick up a defense card, and when it adds the city, which it's going to in this build phase, I may still be able to defend it if I get like a 3 defense, because I can push this out. So let's see what I get. So I'm going to also go for a power card again. I'm playing around this 1 energy, and I'm going to gain 1 energy. So let's see what I get. I did get a defense. 1 range away from a sacred site. Fantastic. And I get to push, or I get to defend for 6. Now this does have a sun. This has the ability to remove a blight. Do I have any other blue? Yeah, I do. I've got water, so I could actually take this, defend for 6. I prefer this one, even though it doesn't have a sun. I've got enough sun and air, and these aren't really options I need. It was a defense card I was going for, and I found one, which is great. Now I did end up moving the Dahan away, which now in retrospect I wish I didn't, because I could have, yeah. But that doesn't matter so much, because I can push one of the Dahan in there. And at least I've protected myself against cultural assimilation. So what I'll do is I will put... Oh, that's putting another one in there again. Meh. So be it. And I'll push this into here. Now I push the Dahan into there. Then I'm going to play this as a resilience, nature's resilience. Now what I'm looking for in the following turn, when I add presence, if I get a sun air, or in fact just a air card, I can actually trigger my innate power on that turn, on the following turn, and maybe actually be able to blitz quite a lot. So therefore I'm underplaying again, and this may mean that they explore into lands, and it's a bit annoying, but especially if it's coastal. But let's see what happens, okay? So we're actually going to defend... No, actually, what are we doing? We don't actually need to play this at all, because I just realized I picked this card up to defend this land, but it's not ravaging now. It's only these ones. So, with that in mind, I think I'm okay to play absolutely no cards this turn. Look at that. There you go. So let's see. Each spirit destroys one of their presence and gains a permanent element for the rest of the game. Very nice. I like that. Now, it does mean I have to get rid of that would mean I have to get rid of the very card that I chose to use to defend this land. Oh, that's unfortunate, to say the least. But it may not matter. And I tell you for why. Because I will be able to move things out of this land. The city will then die. And then things in this land may die as well. Let's see. Maybe it won't matter. So what we'll do is we'll forge a web. Push one to a land without tons of cities if explorers are there. Alright, let's do that. Let's... Actually, we can discard. So if we discard a card, but then I won't be able to... it's so frustrating. I could discard it, keep it in my hand if I absolutely needed it for the following turn, and still pay the 2 energy, which means I'd have to have 1, 2, 3, 4... 5... 4 energy. 1, 2, 3. So I need 3 energy, and I'll only get 1, 2 energy, so I won't be able to do it if I pay for it. Goodness gracious, I think I have to forget it, which is really rubbish, isn't it? Oh well, see you later. Bye-bye. And I'll destroy this one, because I've got 3 in this land now. And the extra element I'm going to get is air. So on each board, push 1 thingy. Yeah, we did that one. So we'll push this one into here. Oh, here. There we go. And then I can gather these into a land without setup symbols. Meh. Fine, I'll move them away. There you go. Okay, so they're going to ravage here, and then they're going to build. But now I have... Oh, it is coastal. That's so frustrating. Oh, well. So that's a little bit annoying. It's not as neat. Because now they're spreading into different parts of the island. So now what we can do is we can either reclaim, which I don't like to do because I want to open up this area here. Technically, I don't need to because I can play 3 card plays and I will have enough air present in order to play my Innate. So I actually don't need to pick up the 4th card. And I can go with this one, or this one, or this one. I quite like the idea of getting some energy, and then the following turn I can reclaim and do it all over again. So let's do that. So I'm going to put this into here. I can move this guy out. And then we're going to do this, this, and this. And then we can trigger our innate power because we've got the extra air. And we're going to then cast this on ourselves for rain, for the slow to fast with a power that has push or gather. We're going to trigger 1 range extra on ourselves. Then we're going to push stuff from this land into this land. So we're going to push this, we're going to push this, and we're going to push this. Okay. Now we choose a land to do damage in. Because we're triggering the final power, we do 4 damage here. So that will kill this city. And then we get to do 3 damage here. So what I'm going to try to do is 1, 2, 3 there like that. And then you'll see what happens. So I'll do the damage here first, so that will die. Then I will do 3 damage in this land. And I'll do 1, 2, 3. And then I'll use this power and choose 5 invaders and do 1 damage to each one of them. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And that's our first little bit of fear. Ignore, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. That doesn't do anything. And each land, that doesn't do anything. And add 1 to a land with Dahan. Okay, yeah, I could do that. I'll add it there. Okay. Now let's see. Each player removes 1 explorer from a land with... Oh, excellent. Okay. I actually wouldn't have minded it living there because I did want to do damage, but... Okay. So now what we'll do is reclaim. And let's see, all we need to do is 4 damage. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this can move. This can move and this can move into this land. Where we can kill this off because 2 things move and they'll hit into each other and therefore this will die. Or we can just move these 2 in. Do 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3. I think we have this. Yeah, I think we've got this. So now what we're going to do is just, we'll get a power card. It doesn't really matter what we gain. Fantastic. Destroy. Oh, this is quite funky as well. Am I in a land that can do that? 1 damage to each. I don't really even need that, I don't think. But... and destroy 1. Maybe you take this one, or 1 damage. Yeah, let's do this. Right, okay, so this is what's going to happen. I'm going to play this. No, we're going to play this, and this, and this, and 1 more sun air. And we can do... this one. Right, okay. So now... If I've figured this out properly, I may not have, but if I figured this out properly, we're going to do these 2 on ourselves. We're going to do this on this land here. And we're going to push this into this land. Then it's going to generate 1 fear. Then we're going to push, if I push this into this land and this into this land. Then I do 4 damage here. One, 2, 3, 4. Right? We're doing it. We're doing it. We're still on terror level 1 because we've got 1 more card here. And then we can do 3 damage here. So what we're going to do is 1, 2, 3. This will then, in the Ravage phase, kill this off. And we will destroy this land. Correct. 1. Actually, 1 is enough, but I'll do 1, 2, 3, like this. And then we will do... Oh, we're so close, aren't we? That would have been so neat to do it that way. I'm just thinking whether to leave this as it is, or whether to kill this off outright and leave just the Explorer. It's probably safer. So this is just a min-maxing thing, okay? So, oh, I had to go all the way back. That's so this goes in here, this goes in here, and this goes in here. So in case it says in a land with towns and Dahans, the Dahan and town don't interact with one another or something like that, I'd rather just kill it off, right? And I'm talking about event here. So let's deal damage. 1, 2, 3. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry about this. That happens with my thing sometimes. And then 4 damage here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Then here I can do... Oh, look at that. I can just do 1 damage there. And then everything here dies. Perfect. Beautiful. And we've cleared the land of all the invaders. I can't believe it took me that long to see that. But there you go. So I didn't even need the Ravage phase. So this is what I mean. He wins in Terror level 1. How cool is that? How cool is that? You have a spirit that can absolutely win in Terror level 1. And you saw how many times did we underplay? How many times did we play a round where you didn't actually play a card? That's crazy, right? And look at the land. Yeah, we blighted once in one area, but so what? So what? Look at the land. Do you see what I mean about him being kind of defensive without being defensive? He's got this kind of ability to defend lands by the sheer amount of control he can exude. And then the damage really scales. And if you play it out well, you can actually do that damage quite well. Now, we got a little bit lucky with one of the events where we were allowed to gain an extra air, which we wouldn't have had access to otherwise, and therefore we would not have had access to that 4th level of innate power to set up the land in such a way. But look, that's the ride you take sometimes. You never know exactly what's going to come up. But I really think the summary here of this guy, of what we just showed there, is control. I think you'll agree, a surprising amount of damage, doesn't do much fear at all, nothing at all, very, very little. There's 1 fear here, that's it, right? And then whatever he generates from when he actually lets things get killed. But you saw a lot of the things we were destroying were explorers and towns. I think there was 1 or 2 cities, that was it. That was it. And if you let the land build up too much, yes, okay, then it can become a bit complex. But if you don't, you're really good, really nice control. So, strengths and weaknesses, well, let's start with Control Master. He is Control Master. I mean, he really is. Look at him. He controls everything. He moves everything around the board. Now, he's not to the extent of something like Finder of Paths Unseen, but he does at least damage, whereas Finder of Paths Unseen does not. So very, very good with control. If you like control, or you like the idea of learning control, this is the spirit for you. Okay, really can manipulate the board in such a way that attacks don't maybe have the same amount of concern as they would normally. You can, by adding your growth on the board, you can move things out of lands that would have attacked or even built into a dangerous area just in your growth phase, let alone your control elements on your cards and your innates. He does, as you could see, a really, nice, surprising amount of damage, as long as you know how to set it up. And it does require setup. You do need to kind of affect 2 lands near to each other, which is another strength of his. He can affect 2 lands that are adjacent to each other, and he's kind of set up to do that. You know, the winds were pushing from one land and whisking things into another. So you kind of want to set the game up in that way. And draft-wise, you don't need much. I think you found as well with this demonstration game, I drafted a card and said, ooh, cool, a defense. And the very turn I drafted it, I got rid of it. You don't actually need to draft too many cards. You can win the game very easily with your unique cards. It just takes a while to get there. Very, very flexible spirit. I went down the bottom path because I wanted to do card plays and demonstrate the innate use in this game. He can easily go top path, maybe flex into 2 card plays, top path, and just get lots of energy and go mages if you wanted to, which is really weird, but you can. And you can turn him from a soft, playful mini cyclone based spirit to like a tornado damage dealing spirit. Okay, really, really cool. Very flexible, very fun spirit. The weaknesses, I would say, is it does force you to think about control, which means you do need to think about the slow phase of the game. You do need to think about the explore phase of the game. And yes, he has options in the fast phase, in the growth phase, to get rid of an explorer, which I didn't deal with very well. But you only can do that once, because you can only grow once. Now, of course, in a multiplayer game, if you have something like rampant spread of green and he gives you the ability to proliferate, oh my goodness, that's amazing. You can control the board even more so. But on a solo game, control, you've got to understand its strengths and limitations, and he really leans into control. So that's a big negative. You know, you got to be, if you're not good with control, you got to understand this is a guy that needs it. So therefore, you're required to get better with control. But he's a really good growing and learning spirit like that. Another negative is he's not outright damage. He is not going to be your damage-based spirit. If you're looking for damage, don't look to him. Unless you want to flex into that sort of aggressive, energy-based spirit, fine. But otherwise, you're not going to be doing the damage in the normal, traditional way. The surprising damage, sure, but not the actual damage if you want that. He's fast off the gate, but requires an understanding of things like underplaying and holding on to cards. And that's a bit of a technique which is not easy to at first know how and when to use. And so there's complexity there. Low complex spirit, but there's enough moving stuff going on that couple that with the ability, the idea of not playing too many cards at some stages, it's a little bit enough there to dissuade people who start the game as a beginner to take him on and go, oh yeah, that's the one straight away I'm going to go with. And I suppose, although very thematic, he's neither defense, he's neither offense. He's sort of a little bit, you could see as wishy-washy, as a bit kind of, oh, I'll control and I'll blow it here and I'll push a bit there. And he's not really, I come and I defend and I come and heal, I come and help. And he's kind of like, woohoo, I'll do my thing. It's just a little bit, he doesn't have, maybe for those who love the identity of I am offense or I am this or whatever, he's got a high level of control, but not the highest in the game. He's got a good amount of damage, but chip damage. He affects explorers and towns more than cities. He can go onto lots of different boards, but he may not be as effective there. He's sort of like he's a lower level powerhouse spirit, but if you know how to play him, he's actually really powerful, but out the gate, a little bit more complex. So those are the main things that I would say. But I hope you really enjoyed this spirit and the demonstration of the spirit. I certainly really like playing the spirit, and I hope you enjoyed this video and you got something from it, from the theme behind it and the sheer joy that he exudes when you play him. Because the entire time I was playing, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I'm pretty much smiling the entire time. He just gives you that feeling. If you like a spirit that makes you smile, this is another probably big strength. Pick this guy. You can't help but smile, like just, oh, blow this, I'll whisk you there, oh dear, I've done a bit of damage. It just makes you smile. He makes you smile. Unless, of course, the land starts getting blighted and nasty, and then you're like, oh dear. And high level adversaries, he might struggle, because when you've got a lot of cities, he's not going to do much. And it kind of thematically makes sense as well. When you do a gust of wind, you might kind of propel lone people, explorers with tents and so on. People have small settlements, and that the wind can go through those areas. Fine, you maybe can dislodge those. But big cities and masonry, it's not going to do much, is it really? Shatter a window or two, but that's about it. Okay, so now talking about next week's spirit. Right, so next week's spirit it's going to be I think a really, really cool one. One of my favorite ones. Really one of my favorite ones. One of the ones I gravitated towards right at the very beginning. Clues. He's a bit tired. And he stays tired for quite a while. He tends to play a little bit sort of slow. He has some of the best utility in the game. And by that I specifically mean coupling with in a multi-spirit game, he's one of the most in demand for spirits to get his abilities from. He's got a lot to give. Once he gets going, probably the most powerful spirit in the game. Do not mess with him. I think I've given away probably quite a lot there, but do guess, do join in, and find out who it is that we're talking about if you don't already know. And in the meantime, I leave you with, as always, guys, keep spiriting, keep saving this island, and in the process, try and save the Dahan. Good luck, and God bless.